How is it going, everyone? It's Johnny Bead here with another episode of the Streamer Stories podcast. My guest today is the absolutely brilliant Neon Genesis. Hello.
Hello, welcome.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much for being on. Thanks so much for appearing on. Unfortunately, we've had some tech issues, haven't we? But I've got your profile pic there, so we can still see what you look like. So that's important.
The picture looks better than the real life. Let's just...
I'm sure not. But thanks so much for appearing on the podcast, mate. I love your streams. You're just an awesome dude, and I can't wait to get chatting with you. So yeah, do you want to introduce yourself to those who don't know who Neon Genesis is? Do you want to introduce?
Well, it's definitely not the anime because that's we'll get onto that later. But that's what my name is from. But yeah, my name is Neon Genesis. I'm 36 years old. Apparently, I have a face that doesn't move, as you can see on the screen if you're watching on the YouTube side of it. But no, yeah, I'm a big gamer, big into Final Fantasy, and I dabble in a bit of speedrunning. Again, I guess we'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah.
We'll definitely get into that, mate. I mean, you dabbled in speedrunning. You're an absolute machine at Final Fantasy XIV. I mean, you're very humble there, let's be honest. We'll definitely talk about that in a bit. But yeah.
I'm all right. I'm okay.
Oh, so humble. So yeah, okay. But yeah, that's now, isn't it? So okay, let's talk about childhood then. So games you played when you were a kid. I mean, I imagine Final Fantasy XIV is up there and other Final Fantasy games. But what was your first memories of playing games?
First memory, well, so to be honest, I have always remembered myself gaming. Like, you know, it's a bit of a cliche. Oh, I've been gaming since I was a child, but I actually have been gaming since I was a child, and I didn't actually realize how young an age I was gaming. So my mum obviously was like talking to me about it, and I sort of said to her, like, I remember this memory, and she was like, no, it goes way back before that. And I was like, what do you mean? But it turns out like I've been gaming since I was about 5 years old.
Oh, nice.
And to kind of like not back this up, I've got nothing to prove, but the first like sort of console, I know this is not quite the question yet, but was I think it's called a Tatung Einstein. I don't know if that's making you think of what that is.
Yes, what is that?
And it was like, if you can Google it, but basically it looks like a typewriter. It's not, obviously, but it was a typewriter. Essentially looks like that. I think it's like a monitor on top and like a kind of keyboard, like typewriter features, if you get me. So but it was a console, and my brother, who was 3 years older, I think my mum initially bought it for him to help with school because I'm not sure. I think it was floppy disk. Going back now,
yeah.
And I think it was apparently you could do good maths on it and stuff. So I think my mum bought it for my brother to help with maths. So you can do times table and pluses and takeaways and stuff like that. But there was some games for it, and I remember the game that I was playing, and up until about an hour and a half ago, I actually first saw the image that I've been looking for since I've been searching. So game I played was something called, this is going to sound like such a rip-off, Impossible Mission, not Mission Impossible. And I Googled it about 2 hours ago just to see if it was the game, that I remembered. And it is. It's a side-scrolling game, and there's actually a YouTube video on it. So I'm gonna have a little dabble on that later on and have a look at that.
Oh,
but, that was my first sort of gaming memory. Was that, and then honestly from there onwards it kind of escalated, and I think gaming just completely changed me as a person. But I have a bit of an odd upbringing. I was sort of born in Germany and then lived in Northern Ireland. My father was in the army, so my first game memory was on the Tatung Einstein in Northern Ireland.
Wow.
So that's like a bit of a unique upbringing to say that I'm British and everything. But yeah, that was my first sort of gaming memory, and 5 years old.
Goodness.
Gaming, Young Neon.
Young Neon. Wow. Yeah. I had floppy disks and stuff like that. I don't think I had what I maybe I did. I don't know. I always thought it was like an MS DOS, but I don't even think it was. I had a floppy disk type of thing my granddad gave me, and I had I used to play Wheel of Fortune on my floppy disks, and I used to edit the scores and stuff like that. That's my first, I say my first race into hacking. I don't do hacking. Little Johnny Bede was a hacker when he was younger. So, but yeah, no, I remember the floppy disks as well, and yeah, it's funny seeing the kids nowadays. Like they always call it the save icon now, don't they? It's the save icon.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. I didn't even register that until you said that. Yeah, it's true actually.
Yeah, that's what the kids call it nowadays. What, the save icon? Oh no.
No, that's a floppy disk.
Yes, mate, it's a floppy disk. Oh goodness, yeah. So that was your those memories. I mean, yeah. Oh wow, that's going to be exciting for you to look at that on YouTube later on. Then, so those technically, I suppose, like memories. Then are they? They might be now, but they weren't at the time. So what were you going to say then? I suppose before you spoke to your mum.
My first. Like, well, I can't say first because I do remember playing the game I mentioned, on the Tatung Einstein. I don't remember playing on the actual like console. I guess it's a console, right? On the console, I don't remember that, but I just remember playing that game and where I was and how old I was roughly. My mum obviously told me how old I was and what year it was. It was like 93, I think she said, or 92. So, but my first, where like sort of my first initial memories sort of reside is oh god, I'm trying to think which, because I've got memories in my head, but like they're a bit jumbled because I'm not sure what came first. But I did have an original Game Boy. I know it wasn't quite console and obviously not PC, but I do remember having a handheld little Game Boy, the original grey one, which I still have.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I was playing like Tetris, and I think it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I do remember that, but I think that was like, I don't know if that was like the first. I can't really say that's my first memory again, but I would say around the Game Boy era and then onwards, where it became like the Mega Drive and onwards. It was just, I do remember like very strongly like all my memories from like practically Mega Drive onwards. I've dabbled in like all kinds of games, which I guess we'll probably get onto a bit later on. But I've done like, I've tried racing games, I've tried shooting games, I've tried fighting games, I've tried everything, and until you find, hopefully whatever it is that you are looking for, whether something clicks or doesn't, and what you're good at and what you're not good at. So
yeah,
it's like real life.
I mean, again, we're just talking about like the forays of different types of games you mentioned there, because it just got me thinking now about like some of the more modern, dare we say, modern genres, like RPGs, as we both know, have gone through a huge transition during that time. Like FPS games were huge in the noughties, but they weren't that big in the 90s, apart from like Doom and stuff, were they? So
yeah, you're true. I can only name a handful. Yeah.
And obviously online game playing wasn't big until the noughties either as well. So yeah, it's and card games are now a bigger thing now than they probably ever were back in those days. So it's kind of fascinating, isn't it? MMOs as well. So you talk about that journey then. So what games did you play on the Mega Drive, and what genres did you kind of steer towards or go through?
Well, so as a young lad around that age, anyway, I don't even know what age I was around the year that Mega Drive came out, but my mum worked her butt off basically, and she did manage to get us a Mega Drive. But I was also quite into football, soccer if you're from the States, and so I dabbled in a lot of different kinds of video. I think we had like a cartridge. We've had like a multi-load of games on it. I think there was a football game on there. There was I think there was like possibly like is it Shinobi?
Yeah.
There was like Shinobi on there, and there was also like and there was a Golden Axe, I think.
Yeah.
And Streets of Rage. I remember all these games very vivid. I was massive on Streets of Rage. I loved that. But I think one of my first games that I remember getting addicted to on the sort of Mega Drive was definitely Streets of Rage, Brawls, and Golden Axe, because they were very similar, like styles of game, scrolling through and beating enemies up. But Sonic the Hedgehog, I got really big on Sonic the Hedgehog at one point. I never grew up with Nintendo, so I never played any Nintendo games, apart from Game Boy. I didn't own an SNES or anything like that, or an N64, which again is a bit later. I never grew up with any of that, so I was all like Mega Drive and Sega at that age until later in life. So, but yeah, I was just absolutely obsessed with. I don't remember which Sonic it was. I think there was like Sonic 2, and I probably played Sonic 1, and there was like I think it was Sonic and Tails maybe. I don't remember much else. I think I played probably Sonic 3 as well. I did like all them games, and there was another game, Toe Jam and Earl.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if you recognize that or remember that, but I also loved that game. That was more like your exploring kind of game now. Like, what kind of game would you say that is?
Yeah, they've released another Toe Jam and Earl game not long ago, a couple of years ago, I think. Now, like the first Toe Jam and Earl game in like 20 odd years now. I think maybe even 30. Who knows?
I always just remember thinking, what a bop that music is.
Yeah. My son loves like these old retro games. We've got on like the Mega Collection, on like you can get on like Steam and the PS4 and 5 or whatever. He loves Toe Jam and Earl and Alex the Kid. So he called Alex Kid. Oh, yeah. He calls him Alex the Kid.
I always did. I always called it Alex the Kid.
Yeah.
So maybe it is actually Alex the Kid. I don't know, but that's how I always used to call it. Is it called Alex Kid? Really?
Alex Kid. Yeah.
I've always called it Alex the Kid.
There's no the. I know. Good times. And Streets of Rage. Oh yeah. I in fact on stream my sibling and my sister doesn't play a lot of games, especially mods and stuff. She likes to watch games and stuff, but she used to play Streets of Rage with me. We just played it on stream together, just on the weekend gone, and that was just we beat it on normal mode. I was quite surprised because it's quite tough.
I replaying it maybe about 9 years ago on Steam, and I got to like the last stage and died somewhere. So I was like, oh no, But it's all the soundtracks of each of the levels or stages, and the boss music and all that stuff. To me, it's just so iconic.
Yes, 100%.
That's like pure childhood, and like the same goes for any Sonic themes. Like, it's just childhood nostalgia. You play it, it's like, what do you hear? I just hear memories.
Yes.
That's what I hear, for me anyway, especially at that age.
So we'll take a small detour now, because you mentioned you've not had Nintendo consoles. I didn't either. I was Mega Drive person growing up as well. But at the moment you're playing some Zelda for the first time, am I right?
I actually am.
I've not played Zelda yet either, so don't worry.
Mainly because I missed out on Nintendo stuff. I mean, I played on the Game Boy and stuff, but for those who don't know, the original Game Boy was all in black and white. So like, I never got a Game Boy Color. I kind of I was definitely older by the time that Game Boy Color came out and stuff, and I think I'd like, quote unquote, passed that like train. I was already on, I think, PlayStation or something at that time. But yeah, no, I'm playing Zelda right now. I'm playing Ocarina of Time. We are, I think, a good chunk into it. I'm not very good at like puzzle games and stuff like that. So this one is definitely testing me, because it is making me think, how to solve a puzzle and these different like quote unquote temples and stuff like that. But I'm absolutely loving it. And because what I guess primarily focus on is Final Fantasy games, which that's a whole new story anyway, that one. But it's so nice to dabble out and to just try some Nintendo games, basically, with the Switch.
Yeah, for sure. And again, just thinking about, like, for me, again, we talk about Sega Mega Drive versus Nintendo. Of course, there was PlayStation versus Nintendo as well, and there was always this thing again. I don't know about yourself, but I was a huge reader of Game FAQs back in the day, and there was always this Zelda Ocarina of Time versus Final Fantasy VII debate going on what's the best game of all time and all that stuff. So I think, again, just myself, because I was a huge Final Fantasy fan growing up, I was like, I won't play Zelda, which is a bit pathetic now, But...
Yeah, I remember when PlayStations were coming out and N64s were coming out. To me, the massive debate was, well, actually, I said debate, but it was more of a huge shift, and even to this day, what that did at that era of gaming was such a big change, because the battle of disc or cartridge.
Yes, very much so. Because
PlayStation was like, disc, and obviously N64 was cartridges, and that's basically where cartridges stopped. And like, if you go to any console after that, Xbox 360, GameCube, even, PS1, PS2, PS3, and so on and so forth. And it's all disc. It's all discs now.
Yeah.
And even I guess, the Switch is slightly different to a disc, I guess. I don't know what they are. They're small cartridges, maybe. I don't know what they are, but yeah, it was such a big debate, and I remember thinking like, my mum had said like, you can have a PlayStation or an N64, but I need to know which one you want. And my mum, like, she worked her butt off, like, so hard. She was a single. My dad was like working away a lot, so he was away. So my mum was just like, basically sole providing for me and my brother. And she was like working. I think she was working in a factory at the time, so she was doing like overtime, and she was like bending over backwards because they were not cheap back then. And I was actually talking to my mum about it today, and she's like, all I knew at the time is that you eventually did choose PlayStation because you thought, and my brother told me this, that disc is the way forward. I remember him saying that to me. So I remember thinking, smart brother. And then my mum said, whatever you got though, I needed to make sure that he had 2 controllers. So back in whatever year it was, we didn't get them like on release to PlayStation, but like, probably the following Christmas or even the one after that, we finally got one. And it was like, to be honest, that is literally where I went hardcore. I'm a gamer now. Like, that is why I am. Like, I just was absolutely obsessed. I think my first game on PS1 was like Soul Blade.
Oh, yes.
I got that free with mine. And games were like obviously like real life, as you imagine, but games were also expensive back then. But there was, in another sense, it was easy to get a hold of because back then, I'm going to tickle your memories here, Johnny, but back then you could rent a game from a Blockbuster, or I think we had a building, I guess, called Choices, and you could go in, or Choices Video or something, and you can go in there and you can rent a game for like 4 days. It was like £7 or whatever to rent a game for 4 days. So like access to games was that was our access to games basically, and we ended up doing that for a while until we could start getting games. And don't even get me started with a memory card, because that was something else you needed, otherwise you couldn't save your games. So but yeah, that was to me, that's where the gaming really took off. Like Mega Drive was like, I got a real big taste in games, but then PlayStation, certainly in terms of graphics, had just quadrupled. It was, you're playing this like realistic simulator, when you compare it to Mega Drive. All those side-scrolling games to literally fully 3D, basically.
100%.
Massive.
Firstly, shout out to Mama Neon. She sounds amazing. The second thing I wanted to say was, I've got to ask you, because obviously Final Fantasy VII is your jam, really. Did you look at the back of the manual and it said, memory card, buy one of these, you can't beat Final Fantasy VII without it, and now look at you,
I actually don't remember. I remember having the instructions, and I never really had a say in the matter of getting that game, of Final Fantasy VII, and obviously we know that came out in, I think, 1997, so I don't know if I got it like when it was released in, I think, the January or whatever, or I forgot it, the following year or whatever. My brother was the one who, him being 3 years older, and me being 10 back in 1997, I think he was 13, so he had a bit more of a voice on what games we played. But I think he heard about Final Fantasy VII through a friend at school, who probably then heard about that through a gaming magazine, which obviously they were hyping up Final Fantasy VII to be having like over 2 hours of FMVs or cinematics, as they called it back then. But yeah, man, that FF7 was just, it was crazy. I don't remember when or how we got the memory card. Again, my brother probably had an impact on us having that, or maybe that was our point where we needed a memory card. But again, they were not cheap. I remember, I think back then, and you're talking like, what, 25 years ago, I think they were like £10 or £15, which doesn't sound like much now. But when you think like back 25 years ago, obviously inflation and everything revert that, they were like the equivalent of about £50, I would say, now, probably. So they were like not cheap at all. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII, I remember my brother playing it first, and he said, look, when I die, you play. And then so on and so forth. We'll take turns, and we were, as you can imagine, we were stuck in the reactor because everyone died with attacking the Scorpion. The tail was up. Obviously, the translation error.
Yeah.
But what people didn't know, and we didn't know, is that at the back of the instructions, I don't know if you've got the game, Johnny, but if you look at the back of the instructions, it actually has a small guide to get you through the first reactor and the first boss.
I don't remember that, but okay, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't even know how I found out. I think we started looking at the instruction booklet and stuff like that, and that's how we got through it. And it was honestly sort of downhill from that point. I was just literally, I didn't know what the word obsessed meant until a few weeks or months after playing that game, because my brother, like, whatever, we beat the game, or he gave up on it. I think I remember him beating the game with me at one point months later or whatever, but I remember him saying to me at one point I would just restart the game over and over and over again, have loads of saves, and my brother said to me, "You are obsessed." And I remember saying to him, "What does that even mean?"
Yeah.
He literally taught me the word obsessed, and to be honest, I didn't know what an obsession was at the time, but now I have, and now I am, and I know exactly what that is, and to this day, I'm still obsessed with that game. So
yeah,
it was a massive turning point for me.
Oh, it was for so many of us, wasn't it? I mean, it was the same for me. Like, I'll ask you the question. I'll answer it for myself first now, but asking you the same question of when it comes to memorable moments of Final Fantasy VII. For me, the biggest mind-blowing moment for me was leaving Midgar, just seeing the world map for the first time. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I'd never played an RPG properly before anyway, prior to that. So everything was innovative and different and vast and incredible and all that stuff. But then the whole icing on top of the cake for me was leaving Midgar. I was like, what? This story is just never ending. It felt unlimited. But what you said, what are your favourite early on memories of playing Final Fantasy VII?
Well, I think... So in a way, weirdly enough, I was spoiled all the way through Final Fantasy VII, and I'll explain what that means. So basically, like, let's say, I'm still in Midgar, and we know later on there's going to be a motorcycle chase scene. So I would know about that before it's happened, but I wouldn't know obviously when, but I'd know it was going to happen. So what that did, in a way, yes, that would be considered spoilers now, but what it did for me is it excited me more, because I started looking in every corner going, where's this motorbike?
Oh, yeah.
Where is it? And I remember looking in the wall market going, is the motorbike here?
Yeah.
And then, like, I knew about the motorbike, and then I knew about, like, oh, there's going to be a big snake that you see dead. And obviously that was a little bit after Midgar and, after the Khan flashback and everything. So I would start going, where's the snake then? So in a way, it really excited me. But I do remember, I mean, I was stuck so much in that game because I'd never played something so, like, I've never played a JRPG before, or back then they were called just RPGs, but I'd never played an RPG at the time, and I'd never played anything with such great storytelling. And Final Fantasy VII taught me so much. It taught me how to read. It taught me I would do maths in my head when you're taking damage. I would do the math, like I would see the number, and then I'd go, right, take away that from my health. And then even though it deducts from your health at the bottom anyway, I would check and see if my maths was correct by looking at the health and go, oh yeah, that's what it is. So that's how it taught me that. But my biggest memory, and it really affected me actually, because I was 10, was the scene at the end of Disc 1. I think the most iconic scene in Final Fantasy VII. I guess I can't really spoil it, but in case there are people not listening, but listening, I don't want to spoil, but there's that scene really affected me a lot actually. Like, I was genuinely, like, traumatized. I remember sleeping going, I can't believe what I've just witnessed.
That
I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it really affected me. Even to this day, where I sense that that character's precious or special. That was iconic. Absolutely.
My first shedded tears in a video game. That scene for sure.
I don't remember if I cried.
Oh, I did.
I cried. I remember being stuck on so many bosses. I know this might be a question later, so I'll tell you it now anyway. Because one of my funniest memories or like fondest memories of going through Final Fantasy VII regarding my family is we were stuck on the boss on the elevator in Final Fantasy VII in Midgar.
Oh yeah.
And we were like, we were just fighting it over and over and over and over, and we just kept on dying. And obviously you have a bit of a boss rush because you've got like the 2 elevator bosses plus another boss straight after. And it was always the elevator boss that we were stuck on, and we were stuck for so long that my mum would get out the controller and have a go as well. Anyway, one day, I think we were trying it before school or something, and anyway, my mum goes, "All right, time for you to go to school, Neon." So I went to school, and then I came home, and then my mum said, "Oh, I've gotten past the boss for you."
Oh,
right?
nice. Yeah, okay.
So like, you're joking, right? I'm not even kidding, Johnny. For 15 years, I believed it, right? Until only about literally only until about 10 years ago when I found out it wasn't. It was my mum had given my brother the day off school, and he did it.
What? Oh,
So
how does that make you feel?
So cool. Yeah. I felt so lied to, but that was one of my fondest memories because I remember me thinking, how ace is my mum for like beating this boss, and she's like, "Oh, I've paused it." You can't pause that game, but she's like, "Oh, I'm standing there, and I can't save the game because I don't know how to." And yeah, I remember coming home and my brother sat there going, "Look what Mum's done," and they played along with it. And they obviously forgot to tell me eventually the truth, but when I did find out, I'm not even kidding. It was only about 10 years ago when I found out. I was just like, I feel my whole life's a lie, Like, it was so good though. That was one of my best memories of FF7. And
Wow.
my mum, she just knew I was a hardcore Final Fantasy VII fan.
Wow.
Still am.
Goodness. Wow. Okay. What a story that is. Wow. Yeah. So okay. So Final Fantasy VIII, Final Fantasy IX. Do you have Final Fantasies? Did you get them on release as well? Final Fantasy VII is number 1, I believe, isn't it, for yourself? Let's talk about the others then. What are your favourites, memories and stuff from that?
After Final Fantasy VII, and I mean, I was playing it and playing it and playing it. I would restart the game and go again and rename my characters differently.
Yeah.
I would always, I would grind at one area all the time. I'd grind in the reactor for as long as I could. Or, I was obsessed with like being strong, being stronger than you should be at kind of inappropriate moments. So I remember like certain sections of the game, like let's say at a certain section of the game you break the 500 HP mark, so I was always like, let's see if I can get to 1000 HP. I was always like challenging myself, but I never ever did the super bosses or anything like that. But after being absolutely massively obsessed with Final Fantasy VII, I do remember seeing the trailer to Final Fantasy VIII on demo disc, and I remember just losing my mind but I was also puzzled but lost my mind. I was like, wait, has Cloud dyed his hair? Is it, to me, I didn't know that there was not going to be another part to Final Fantasy VII. I didn't know. So when I saw the 8 opening FMV, I just lost my mind, and hearing like the sword clanging between Cypher and Squall, I was like, whoa, this is like a whole new level. And to me, they'd gone from like these very anime Final Fantasy VII, character models to very realistic, scar on your face, blood, all this in the opening cinematic. So we did get I'm not entirely sure if we got it on release, but I would say we definitely got it pretty soon after it came out. Back then there was a game station in the UK. I don't know if you remember that, Johnny.
I do. Yep.
But we used to trade in games. Obviously I would never trade in my baby Final Fantasy VII, but we probably traded in a bunch of games and got a load of money off, and then got a Final Fantasy VIII for that. But yeah, same goes for 9. With 9, rather than an FMV I was reading gaming magazines, seeing articles and screenshots, and I remember vividly thinking like, oh, they've kind of gone a bit more cartoony for 9, and because they've gone like, they really upped their game for 8's realisticness to 9's cartoony, kind of like in a mix between 7 and 8's. I wasn't really sold on how it looked. I still thought it looked great, and there was undeniably no fact I was going to get the game. So same deal. And I do remember going on the release day to get that game. I remember it was from Game, not Game Station, gone to Game, and I remember getting the game and and reading the back of the case and stuff for 9. And the same goes for 10. Like, honestly, 10 came out, like, I remember, again, there was not really a trailer. There was a demo, though, where you can play a little bit in Besaid Village. So I remember grinding the demo for, like, hours, even though there was nothing you could do. It was just a taste of battle. But because I found it fascinating, kind of what kind of weapons and accessories would drop from enemies, which was a cool new thing. I was just obsessed going, in the demo, like, well, basically I've got a free game here. All right, it'll end in 5 minutes, but for now I can just keep grinding and it's a limited time. So same with 10, and then reading about it in PlayStation magazines about Blitzball and underwater soccer at the time they were calling it, and how it was going to be voice acted, and how and I remember thinking, oh my god, this is just the new generation of gaming's coming up, and it was obviously going to be a PS2. So I remember thinking, oh my god, graphically with voice acting, I was just sold on it, and I say you couldn't keep me away from Final Fantasy. I poured in hours to all 4 of them games, Yeah. Still, ironically, still do to this day.
Some things don't change. Oh, good stuff, mate. Good stuff. So it's so good hearing all these stories about family. Did you play much with friends at all, or was it mostly family orientated in terms of time spent?
Well, again, while still going through this obsession of Final Fantasy, I did still play football in real life, and I did also play soccer games or football games with my friends. I did play the FIFA games and the Pro Evolution Soccers and stuff, and I literally bought them every year as well. So that was like a big part of my life. It's not so much now, probably because I'm unfit now and time, But yeah, I did play with my friends. Certainly a lot of football games. I did play I did play GoldenEye on the N64. It wasn't mine. I would play that at a friend's house and we'd hammer that, 4-player or 3-player or whatever. We'd play that. So that was kind of like something I did hammer. So I did play a lot with friends, but I always wanted. It's gonna be a little nice story here. I always wanted someone to sit and just watch me play games, which is ironically what I do now. I remember getting a combination TV or combi TV, where I found a way in a PlayStation magazine where you could record your gameplay on a VHS.
Oh,
so
wow.
I was like, whoa, this is I was fascinated. I thought I need to do this. So my dream immediately was, I'm going to record Metal Gear Solid, because that was one of my favorite games, and Final Fantasy VII, and I will record. I can't remember if I recorded another game now, but I thought I'm going to record them, put them all on VHS, and 1, I can always watch them back whenever I want, and 2, I can, when my friends would come over, I'd say, hey, look at this, and show them and go, watch this with me. I would just, and even though to me it was them watching a movie, in my mind they were watching me play. Yeah. So I just loved the thrill of playing a game and having someone sit and watch and be interested and be just as a fanatic as I was.
Wow.
Luckily, my friends really got into it and they loved Final Fantasy, and they were all discovering things together. Oh, I found this hidden GF in Final Fantasy VIII. Oh my god, what? After a year, there's Doom Train? Wait, what?
Yes.
Whoa! And that took me years to find out. So there was having this nerdy group of only maybe 4 or 5 of us, but yeah, we would exchange stories and have fun that way. So
wow.
Yeah, we did play together, but there was definitely in a sense of we would go around to each other's house watching each other play Final Fantasy games.
Oh wow, that's awesome. So have you got the old tape still? I mean, are you going to put them on YouTube? Let's be honest.
Well, I don't think I'm going to be able to, because obviously it's VHS. I'm sure there's a way though. I don't know if I've got them. I might do.
That'd be so nostalgic.
I'm in the loft right now. I'm in the attic, so they might be even here somewhere. But I know I've still got my original Game Boy. I still have my original PlayStation and PlayStation 2. I keep all my consoles. I've still got my 360 and stuff like that. But I don't know if I've got them. I really hope I do. But I remember labeling them Metal Gear Solid. Do
not record over this.
I was so big on Metal Gear Solid as well. So that was to me playing a real life movie to me. I love it so much.
So,
but yeah, I don't know.
If you do find it, do you reckon you look back on old young Neon Strats for Final Fantasy VII and go, what are you doing that? I thought, no.
Yeah, even worse, because we get onto that, but because I speedrun, I can definitely judge myself really hard now.
Oh, no.
I've ruined step count. Oh my god, why is he doing this on this one? But yeah, I probably probably have. I don't know. I hope I have them somewhere. It'd be so good to see.
That'd be amazing.
Although I don't have a VHS now, so that's the main thing. But I'll probably keep those the VHS, the cassettes, if you like. I'll probably keep them just as childhood memories, even though I can't play it.
No, that's fascinating. So I've got to ask a question. We talked a bit about football. I mean, this is where it might get awkward. Who do you support?
Weirdly enough, I support Liverpool.
Oh, that's right. Fine. We can continue this conversation.
I always did. I remember though when I was younger, I always tossed and turned between Manchester United and Liverpool. But it wasn't, if any reason, it wasn't like my dad supported them or anything. It was more because mainly because my brother did. And my brother did because his friend that we met up, like his sort of childhood friend, his friend grew up like in Liverpool. So I guess it was just easier for us three to just support them together. And but yeah, Liverpool was again one of my second obsession outside of gaming. Not that there was many, trust me, there wasn't, but it was football. I did adore football. I just don't have time to watch it as much, and certainly don't play it anymore. I can't. I would dread to think what I'd like to be kicking a ball now. Oh my god,
yeah, same. I play it sometimes with my youngest, but same. If I was to play it against other adults, I would cringe. I'd think I'd just nope. Can't think of anything worse nowadays.
Well, I think the funny thing is, me playing football, I always try to take a lesson out of everything I do in life. Like I try to learn. I really do try to learn. And one of the lessons I learned in all my time just casually playing football was that I was actually pretty good. And my brother was my sort of inspiration of, if I'm going to get good, I need to be as good as him or at least better. So to me, he wasn't on a pedestal, and there was also his childhood friend who eventually became my childhood friend. But anyway, I always tried to aspire to be just like them because they were older. One was 6 years older than me, and my brother was 3. And I remember years later, my brother said, "You're really good. You are actually pretty good. Why don't you apply for a team?" And I remember thinking, God, am I really that good? And I genuinely didn't. And I think I didn't I didn't take my shot. I should have took my shot. If I'm good at something or really enjoy something, why wouldn't I take the shot? So, I'm 36 now. I'm doing Twitch. Yes, you can feel old on Twitch sometimes, but at the end of the day, I've got one life, and I'm not married. I've got no kids. I've got no obligations. So why not just give it a shot and just have fun with it?
Yeah.
There's no age limit on gaming. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you might differ, but I'm not I wouldn't say I'm some super duper, god skill gamer, but I do enjoy it. And I think that there's a room on the internet somewhere for someone to be sharing their passion. So I think, trying to learn my own lesson of not taking advantage of something I enjoyed. Because, once I started working full time at my first job, and I stopped playing football, I've kind of quote unquote lost my chance, if you like, because once you start getting older and it gets harder, and obviously you can't play football as much, you end up losing your opportunity. So the one thing I do not want to do is be sat there, when I'm 50, 60 and go, what, I did this, I was really good at gaming and I always wanted to share it online, but I never had the balls to do it. But I feel like anyone should do that if they've got a passion for something. They really should. If everything else is allowing you to do it, your fitness, your health and life, I say go for it. So I try to learn and teach myself lessons.
Yeah. So I'm just having all these visions now at the moment of asking a load of Twitch streamers if they want to do a charity football match together or something like that. That'd be amazing.
Oh my god.
So hey, you never know.
I'll be in the stand cheering. That's pretty much all I can do.
Oh, I thought you were going to be managing.
I can manage as long as I'm not running.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask as well about FIFA and Pro Evo. So did you? I mean, I didn't really play Pro Evo, but I always have memories of playing specific FIFA games. Everyone, and I've noticed everyone who does play FIFA and maybe Pro Evo goes, "Oh yeah, that one. That's the one that I was drawn to the most. That was my FIFA game," type of thing. Because, like you said, you got them every year. What were your favourite entries in the series?
I think one of the first FIFAs I played was like FIFA probably 96, and
Yeah.
again it was on my friend's N64, and ironically enough, and I still don't know why even they would let a game do this, but there was I think you press two buttons together and your player could push a player over, like you'd see the hands.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
I don't know if you know what I'm referencing to, but anyway, I remember this game, and I remember playing again. I was 9 or 10 at the time, so I played that a little while. So I did. Obviously, FIFA was like the go-to football game, basically, and still is to this day. But I did eventually get into Pro Evo, and the reason why, Pro Evolution Soccer, for those who don't know the full name, the reason why I got into that is because me and my brother, for like many years, found that in FIFA it was very scripted. So like the shots would always be the same. The same. The saves would be the same. It just felt so monotonous. So what we found with playing Pro Evo is that you could actually have like a ball deflection, so like you'd be like, oh, that doesn't normally happen, and yes, like the movement of the players were a bit janky, and they didn't have the licenses back then to name all the player names the correct names. We would just go through the whole teams and edit them, basically. But we got into Pro Evo. In fact, my friend started kind of quote unquote modding these games, where he would start to, by doing pixel by pixel, he would make like Carlsberg on like the Liverpool football kit. So we had sponsors on our kits that looked legit, because he actually edited them all. Because obviously games back then didn't have the license to like put beer companies and stuff on their football shirts. But then eventually, sort of towards me kind of coming off the football grind, we went back to FIFA for the last few years. And then my brother still plays, but he's got 2 kids and he just sits and plays for an hour. I'm the other way around. I've got all the time in the world, so I stream. So. But yeah, FIFA was probably the majority of our gaming. But I have good memories with Pro Evo as well.
Oh, good times. So, what are you playing at the moment? Do you play mini games offline? What's your ratio?
So, offline, I mean, I probably should have stated, but I do full-time stream, so that's my job. I gave up that, ironically, a year ago this month. So I gave up my job of 18 years last year, and so this has been my first full year of doing full-time content creation. I've always been really, really serious about my streaming, but what's been hard to do is balancing everything else. So for me, I'm a bit of a workaholic. So even though I'm not streaming, I'm either definitely not wanting to be on my PC, because I will spend 4 other days on my PC, or there'll be times where when I'm working on like either coming up with ideas, talking to my artist about emotes, or talking about making new sound effects, or in some way doing admin on your stream. So it's so easy, or being in a stream and supporting and being so addictive. I'm a big stream watcher. I love watching streams. Offline, I am trying to balance and making sure that I have time to watch TV, because that's something I don't make time for, is making time for myself. So all these are like, this isn't like the downside of being a content creation, but like it's definitely a learning curve to know that there's a limit of, okay, you can do this, but you must have a bit of time to yourself. So I'm learning, and the past few months I've managed to dabble in my own few games, and the one game I've managed to get and play offline was Breath of the Wild, which is a Zelda game. So, and that was literally, I'm talking, I beat the game 2 weeks ago, so this is how recent it is. And that was the first game I'd played offline and completed, without the stream, seeing it, and without me never playing it before. So it was my first quote unquote like first time playthrough, but offline. So I was playing that. I'm really into Zelda. I don't want to spoil people who are not into Zelda, but I know a little bit about what's going on with Zelda now. With there's like 17 Zelda games now. I don't know if you know that, but there's like 17 now, and I know that I know some lore and stuff like that going on. So I'm really, really invested in finding out more, and finding out more lore about the Master Sword, or whatever it may be. So I'm really addicted. So I decided I will, kindly, I was gifted a Switch by my community, so and then gifted Breath of the Wild. So I thought I'm definitely going to have to stream that as a thank you anyway.
Yeah.
Also, I'll play Ocarina of Time first because it gives me a big kind of main, I call it a main entry into Zelda, and my community can kind of follow along with me. So, so I'm playing that. I'm still playing Breath of the Wild. Even though I've beaten the game, I'm still kind of like exploring and stuff like that. I am completely obsessed though. I was in my own local town yesterday looking for, like in CEX, looking for like any Zelda game that I can play that I may not play on stream, but play it off stream and, have my own little obsession. But I haven't found anything yet, or whenever I have, it's like, oh, I could probably stream that. So I'm still trying to learn to play other games offline and watching things. I've definitely found some time to watch TV and watch a few movies here and there, but it's still working on myself to do that, to find the time to sit and say it's okay to have your time, you time.
Yeah. For sure, I can imagine. I can't imagine that's the difference. It's got to be difficult. I think I have so much respect for full-time creators like yourself, and especially like you said, the ones where that they give up their jobs. It's a huge risk, isn't it? So I have so much respect for you and for everyone who is in that bracket. And yeah, I suppose like you said, especially when you're enjoying it as well, you don't see it necessarily, I'd imagine, as a bad thing almost. You're investing into your career and into your hobby as well. So yeah, huge props to you.
I mean, there's so much I can talk about. I mean, I won't, but there's so much I can talk about in regards to like streaming. So I actually was always a console gamer until 9 years ago, 2014. And what got me wanting to buy a PC was what started my next big massive obsession, and that was about 2012, 2013. I remember watching a lot of YouTube, and back then I don't know if people are understanding what I'm saying here, but YouTube was becoming huge, especially in the gaming industry and era. So people were doing quote unquote let's plays. So let's plays took off big time. Like PewDiePie was becoming huge already, and he would do let's plays, and he would do like horror games. Markiplier was coming up, and a few years later, Jacksepticeye, like I almost called him Jack, like I'm mates with him, but yeah, Jacksepticeye was exploding, and I bumped into originally what I would call as my first inspiration, and that YouTuber's name was Necroscope86, and there was something about this guy that I really liked, and I couldn't pinpoint what it was, and it turned out that he ended up being like Yorkshire, which is I'm from Yorkshire, so it was his accent, but I didn't know. I just thought there was something nice about his commentary. Anyway, realizing that he was doing YouTube and hearing that him talk about in his YouTube videos that he's getting paid for it, I was there going, wait, you can get paid for gaming?
Yeah.
And obviously, I'm going to game for money. It wasn't quite what I had in mind, but I did want to, again, it kind of goes back to the whole story about me wanting to share myself playing games and having people watch. So I started my YouTube channel in 2014, but I thought, obviously, I need to have a PC to be able to record. So I saved up and bought my first PC May 2014, and then started doing Let's Plays for about, God, I did them for years. I did them for about 3, nearly 4 years. During that time, I know I'm giving a bit of my life story.
Oh, yeah, fine.
During that time, I then dived into my... during that time, I'd played some Final Fantasy XI, the MMO. My obsession never stopped, by the way. And then eventually Final Fantasy XIV, which then later on became another one of my obsessions. So I tried to combine them both, and I thought, well, I want to do videos on Final Fantasy XIV. So I did, and my YouTube channel kind of explode a little bit. I've got like videos with thousands and thousands of views, but ironically, when you do guides, you don't get a lot of subs, but you do get a lot of views for guides. Anyway, and then during that, I thought, well, I want to... And then the whole, like, I obviously Justin TV had finished, and it was all... Twitch was becoming a thing, and I thought, well, I would love to stream, but maybe teach people Final Fantasy XIV. So that's when I made my Twitch channel around 2014 as well, but didn't get properly streaming until about 2017. And then, finding the right internet provider and stuff was hard back then, and things that could support, you actually doing streaming. So we went through, like, I'm not even joking, we went through like 4 internet providers, EE, TalkTalk, Sky, Virgin Media, went through them all, and now I'm with BT. And eventually, when I did finally get good internet and I was streaming, I remember my first stream. See, good segue there, Johnny. I know what
Lovely.
you're thinking. Stream here was I dabbled in a bit of everything. I did do a bit of Final Fantasy XIV, but again, no one was coming in, so I thought, try something different. And I'm definitely someone who's like, if something doesn't work, try it again, or try something different. Don't just get stale. Keep trying something else. And because I'd had like the Let's Play background, I knew I had good commentary. So I dived into 14 again. Wasn't really taking off. I did Final Fantasy 9. Didn't really take off. And I suppose I should also kind of mention, I don't know how long you've been on Twitch either, Johnny, but years ago, back in 2018 or so, there was something called Twitch communities. So there were like tags, basically where you go to a stream now and you see the tags of like 18 plus or no backseat gaming, whatever. Back then you had community tags, and these were tags that kind of helped you to find people that were under the same category. So let's say your category was first time playthrough, let's say, that would be like a community of people doing a first time playthrough. It's hard to explain what that is. Anyway, there was a community eventually from a streamer I met, a Final Fantasy 14 streamer, and there was a community called Together to the Top. Now, some people, whether listening to this or maybe yourself, might have heard of this, but what this was the idea behind this is something now that resonates with me. Basically, there was a YouTuber called Athene Live. He was really big. He was like really big at talking about himself. Oh, I'm the best paladin in the world in World of Warcraft or something. And he would say, look, we're going to do Together to the Top. And what that is the notion is, if you can subscribe to me, and someone else subscribes to you, and then that person subscribes to you. Basically, why does all the big streamers or YouTubers at the time have to make it? Why can't we all just make it together? So why don't you all subscribe to each other and we'll all grow together? So the idea of it was this clan of people that would get hundreds or even thousands of subscribers and all be able to grow into big YouTube channels. And believe it or not, it actually worked. Right. It was working. So anyway, so back onto Twitch now. So there was a guy on Twitch that I met. He had the same notion, and the community tag was Together to the Top. So, but it was slightly different because you can't, quite subscribe to people, can you, on Twitch without paying money? But we were like, well, how about we all follow each other, and how about we all like raid each other? Right, and it was this big community, and I met, and now, there was no contract, there was nothing to sign. You just, if it resonated with you, you would just use that tag. Yes, there was some people who used that tag and it didn't, and maybe it didn't resonate with them, and they were just hoping to grow, right? But there was a maybe, I don't even know how many there was, but there was a huge community of people who it really did resonate with. Right. So I said to the streamer, "Can I join that?" He said, yeah. He says, there's no contract to sign. There's nothing. I'm not the leader. He says, I've got the flag and I'm rolling with it. But the flag was already there. So anyway, and then that's kind of how I kind of unexpectedly grew, and I grew pretty quick at the beginning. So this streamer I'm talking about was averaging about 200, 300 viewers, and he was playing 14 and teaching it. Now, me still undecided what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to do 14, and one day he came to my stream. I never promoted myself. I never did any self promo. He just dropped in, sent me a follow. I have a video of this, by the way. He came in, obviously big streamer, 10,000 followers at the time or something, and he followed me. He's a partner and all this, and I sort of said, thanks man, thanks for the follow. And I'd like my alerts were echoing, I had 2 alerts going off at the same time for every follow. It was awful. Yeah. And like it was just, I had this horrible overlay anyway. And then he to be easy here for people who don't know Final Fantasy XIV, he then spoke in game to his community in a guild, if you like, and said, look guys, Neon Genesis is live, let's go into a stream Together to the Top and let's go and blow him up. So I was like, no dude, you don't need to do that. 20 people or something came over, followed me. I was at 2.9 average viewers. I needed 3 to get affiliate. Yeah. And You can damn right. I got affiliate that stream, so I got affiliate. I was averaging 20 viewers, and this is like obviously like 5 years ago now. I was averaging 20 viewers for the whole stream, and I definitely got affiliate. And I remember me thinking, and I'm quite emotional. I even now, like thinking back, it's like kind of touching my heart a little bit because I remember what it meant to me then, and it still does now. But back then, when I did get affiliate, I remember going. There's a video footage of me going, "Oh, hey, I got that affiliate thing." You know, I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know anything. The goal that I wanted to reach and was reaching for it, and going for it. Anyway, the next stream I signed all my information and signed up to affiliate, and my following stream people started subscribing, and I was like, wait, like, was that a thing? Can you do that? And basically the followers from that to give it to top sort of, I guess, quote unquote raid, they started to come back to my stream. So I quickly grew from like 2 or 3 viewers to like 12 and 15 and 16 average viewers over time. And then this big streamer also raided me a few times, and I think one raid I got 50 followers. Like, it was just, I grew massive at the time. And then obviously I then started to build my own community, and then just did Final Fantasy XIV for like the first year of streaming, and then eventually things I kind of not died out, but I decided I need to get out of 14. I need to do some other things, and kind of like the history kind of went from there. And I dabbled in all sorts. So I just mentioned to you before this episode that I dabbled in like trying out like a bit of podcasting. I've tried different games. I've done MMOs. I've done just chatting streams. I've done horror games. I've done a variety of games. And now I do speedrunning. So I can do a little bit of everything. And I think it's all about finding what you're good at and what you do find passionate. But I think ultimately, I think the hardest streamer to be, honestly, is a variety streamer. Because, if it's easy to be in a niche and have everyone come in, but then if you do everything, who are those people going to be if they don't know what they're coming back to?
That's true.
It's a hard streamer to be, personally.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. Oh wow,
a bit of a long story, but it was a bit of the origin story of my of streaming. Like, I'm incredibly passionate about it. So
100%, I can feel it coming through easily, very much so. That's brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome. I mean, let's talk about speedrunning then. How did you find that niche? I mean, where did that come from in terms of, I mean, you've gone from, obviously, you're playing Final Fantasy VII practically your whole life, haven't you? But where did speedrunning, professionally come into it,
So I think it wasn't too long before. So I think it doesn't go back that far. Like, I remember, again, being a Final Fantasy VII fan, and kind of touching a little bit on the YouTuber that was my inspiration originally. I watched him play Final Fantasy VII, and I was obsessed with watching how he did it. And I would even like literally imitate what he was doing. So like, if he put on a certain material, I'd go, okay, I'm doing that now, and I would use him as a guide, even though I didn't need to. But I found it interesting to see how he was playing the game, how different it was from how I understood the game. Anyway, and then so I kind of always search for other YouTubers playing Final Fantasy VII to just see what other people play the game like. And then I think just one day Googling, I think I always remember hearing about speedrunning and me thinking, why would you do that? You're ruining the game. You're beating it. You're skipping a dialogue. You're ruining the game. I remember thinking that. And when now it's the other way around for me, I'll explain that in a minute. But I think I came across a video, and it's like, I would honestly say it's famous. It's got literally millions of views now. I think it might have over 1 million views. And it was this streamer called Dave Stereo. One of the commentators was someone called... the name is eluding me. I have the letters there. I can't remember his name now, so he doesn't know me in real life, but I know his name. And there was another. The guy actually doing this speedrun was a guy called Benjamin, or known in the speedrunning for Final Fantasy VII, known as Ajneb. Anyway, it was just absolutely commentary. Even now to this day, it explains. They commentated in a way where they explained the story of Final Fantasy VII while they were speedrunning. Also explained the skips and explained like the risks and all that. And you got all that information in such a great video. Anyway, I remember thinking how cool it was, and then I stuck a follow, I think, on either Twitter or Twitch on Dave Stereo and whoever else I could find. And anyway, months later, Dave Stereo started doing a YouTube series of how to speedrun Final Fantasy VII. So you might think straight away, Johnny, okay, this is where he learned. Well, you're right, but you're wrong as well, because initially I was like, okay, well, I want to find out more about speedrunning. I want to know, like, what's the, the nitty gritty. And I started watching this series, and it was like weekly uploads or something. And I remember Dave Stereo, even those videos are still accessible now, but those videos were like, his motto was like, yes, I'm teaching how to speedrun Final Fantasy VII, but I also want you to see or hear how a speedrunner thinks.
Right.
So I found that quite fascinating.
Okay, yeah.
And then one day I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to give this a shot. I'm just going to try it. And this is like, I think it was like maybe 2019 or something, around 2019. And it was something I spoke about on stream. I've been watching speedruns, but I know a couple of tricks and I might show you some time. And that was all I ever spoke about it. I never ever did it. I never showed it, never practiced it, never, put the quote unquote the timer on the screen, which I know is called splits now. Loads of things to learn. Anyway, watched the series. It was great. Found it interesting. Then started looking at speedruns on Twitch. Obviously, Caleb Hart 42. I don't know if you know who he is, Johnny, but he's like the biggest. Like, he's huge. He's a big streamer. He averages about 4,000 viewers. And when he speedruns Final Fantasy VII, it's nuts. And he's good. Anyway, so I started watching other speedrunners running the game, and then kind of just tuned in because he's American, so I'd wake up, watch a bit of his stream for a bit, then go to work or whatever, and then I went through some personal stuff, like some family deaths, and broke up with my fiance, and lots of big stuff at the end of like going through kind of like lockdown, going into like 2021. Yeah. Then when 2021 came along, of January, I was in lockdown. I was in my first place, rented on my own, and I sort of said, at the moment, I've got nothing but time. Right? I've got just me and my cat. You can't leave the house. It's COVID. So I thought, obviously, I'm going to just stream and have fun. And bearing in mind, I'd been 3 years streaming at this point, and sitting at about 20, 30 viewers, which I kind of hit a bit of a stalemate. I wasn't ungrateful. I was the opposite. I was very grateful I had the 20, 30 viewers I had at the time. But I just thought, you know what? I accepted it. I thought, I do not have the whatever it takes, whatever that it is in my head or your head, to be a partner. I just don't have what it takes. And I thought, you know what? It's okay. I thought, I'm just going to have fun now. I've gone through a lot. I just want to, have fun with who turns up. Yeah. And then I started streaming like some other games. I dabbled in 14 still, but I always started doing a bit of variety. And I remember I started Final Fantasy 15, and we were talking on stream, and then I remember this stream as well. And I remember saying, how much I've been watching Final Fantasy VII speedruns, and I'd watched a few runners, and one in particular runner who doesn't run or stream at the moment. She was really encouraging. She was like, "Oh, Neon, I can't wait to watch you run one day. I hope, and the idea that someone was excited for me was exciting for me. It was very encouraging." Anyway, in the 15 stream, Final Fantasy 15 stream, I sort of said, would you guys want to see me show you what I know? It was all it was. I'll show you a few skips I can do. I'll show you a few tricks. I'll show you what I know. Would you like to see it? And I remember who it was. They know who it was. But someone said, I would absolutely love to see that. Right? So I said, okay. And the next stream, I thought, here we go. Final Fantasy VII, my first stream. Here we go. And I thought I genuinely couldn't get a sense of how many people were interested. And when I put my starting soon screen up, and I normally do it for 5-10 minutes, and I remember seeing like 15 or 20 people turning up, and I'm not joking, Johnny, I was crying a little bit. I was literally tearful. I was like, wait, people actually care? Oh. I thought they want to see this, really? And I was tearful. I'm someone who wears a hat on the sleeve, I was literally tearful. And anyway, we went along with it, did a few boss fights and did a few skips. And one of my moderators now, her friend, raided me with like 30, 40 people. And I remember that entire stream after that, I was just stuck at 50 viewers. And I thought, well, big raid, stuck at 50 viewers. I thought, this is great. Found it very encouraging. Then I just kind of stuck it from that point. I said, I'm going to do another stream. I'll show you some other stuff. And then it would be like, oh, I'm going to do a run from the start of the game eventually. And let's just see how far we can get. And I think I'd practiced up until a certain point of the game. And then I would just end it. And then eventually I started getting my timer. And I said, let's see how far we can get. And there was never any intention of me to upload my run, to put myself on the leaderboard. Never, ever. And it's an incredibly difficult game. Full of RNG and a lot of BS. There is a lot of stuff that can go wrong, a lot of stuff. And then I remember, and it's all on my YouTube, this, if people are ever interested in watching it, but I've got my first ever run there. So my first run was with save states. I was on emulator, so I was saving and and I beat the game. I don't even know how many hours. I just did it over the course of save states. So if I made a mistake, I could reload. Then anyway, I beat the game, and then I said, okay, I'm going to do a full run, no save states, and we're going to just go for it. And it took me like 8 hours and something. I don't remember what. I'd done a lot of practice. I would again, I was in lockdown on my own, so the days where I wasn't streaming, I was speedrunning Final Fantasy VII off stream, like in the morning. I'd wake up early in the morning and go for it. And then I have footage of this, and then I beat the game. I beat the game. I'd got my final time there, and I was sobbing my eyes out because it was such a thing for me to get, because it was March, I think, when I beat the game, or April, and I remember thinking, that's my year goal. Like my goal that year was to hit, I think it was 1,000 followers or something, and to also finish a Final Fantasy VII speedrun, and I'd achieved that in March.
Wow,
right?
Goodness, yeah.
So I was like, I thought this is crazy. And then I thought I can upload this to speedrun.com and, put my name on the leaderboard. Now I can't remember where I ranked, like 28th or something. And I remember thinking, and I remember saying, I'm okay. I'm okay with this. I'm on the leaderboard. My name's there. I'm happy.
Yeah.
And then it was just this addiction took over. I went, I want to do better now.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if we can beat the time. And then I started to realize, actually, I'm becoming a speedrunner at this point, and then that's when my viewership just started taking off, and it was like 25 viewers, 30 viewers, 40. Getting those emails after stream saying you averaged this many viewers.
Yeah.
I remember it being at 43 or something, which for me back then, anything over 20 was, anything over 34, I think, was great. And I remember saying, I thought, if I carry on here, things could go well here, but I was in absolute denial that any opportunity for a partner would ever happen. Continued on, got like 60 viewers, 63, and people started to pop in my stream going, oh, neon for partner when and all this, and I would just I would ignore it and just focus on the speed run, trying to focus on beating my times and stuff like that. I was I'm still someone who tries not to fuss over numbers, because everything's a number game now. You can look at your Twitch numbers, you can look at your follower count, you can look at your speed run, the time, you can look at the leaderboard, your time. It's all numbers now these days. So my point was just beating my own time. Didn't care who was overtaking, where I was ranking. And then I think there's a clip of me at 67 average viewers saying, and getting tearful saying, I'm really anxious to bring this up. People are pestering me about partnership here. Just want to say, at 67, we're going to push. We're going to try it. I said, we're going to try it. I'm not going to, I'm tearing up here a little bit because it meant so much to me.
Yeah.
I said, we're gonna just go for it, and I said, I'm not gonna get my hopes up, but we'll go for it. We'll try for partner if it pops up. And then the next stream after 67 was like 73 average viewers. It just shot up, and I was like, wait a minute, we've gone up 6 average viewers. And then partnership was like the partnership application came up. And then I remember thinking, what the fuck, what the hell, is going on here? And then I thought, even to that point, Johnny, I was still in denial. I thought, this isn't going to happen.
Oh, wow.
And then I applied, came back 4 days later, rejected. I thought, that's fine. I thought, I'm going to apply again. I changed some of the wording a little bit, and it was accepted. And I could not tell you how long I'd waited to see those words, that you are accepted as a Twitch partner. And Twitch partners shouldn't be looked at as someone to be put on the pedestal. We're normal like everyone else. I still try to stay down to earth, who I am still, stuff like that. I still try to follow my original values. I remember where I came from, who got me there, and I'll forever be grateful that I was even given the opportunity on this platform to attain such a thing that I didn't think was obtainable, and that I didn't think I had what it takes. But it just shows you that if you do believe in yourself, and that if you don't give up, you can achieve your goals. So that's kind of how I got into running. It's also it's bizarre because as I was approaching the speedrunning, I was so distracted and focused on that partner just honestly genuinely crept up.
Yeah.
I remember talking to my family going, if I could play my cards right, some cool things might happen, and if I get a partner, and maybe I can get sponsorships and all this, and it's honestly been a ride since then. And now like Square Enix will work with me, and I remember messaging them saying, basically applying, saying, would you be willing to work with me? And I think at that time it was about a few months after I got a partner, and they literally responded, "We would love to work with you."
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
And to this day, they've sent me to play Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion early. Like they gave me keys to give away for that game. On stream, gave me the game early. Like they've been nothing but nice to me, and for me, as kind of going back on the topic of what we were talking about earlier, for me to play a video game and to work with my childhood video game company, since I was 10 years old, I have honestly, it's been nothing but mesmerizing, and the people I've met, I'm genuinely just looking for friends and friendship, and just embracing the journey while it's here, because Twitch one might all be over tomorrow. You never know.
It's true.
So,
it's true.
Wow.
I
waffled on a little bit there, but anyway.
I don't mind. I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I have one more question, because you've answered already so many. If you were stuck on a remote island and you had only 3 games to bring with you on that island, what would they be? You can use the internet, so you can download stuff or play online.
Yeah.
What would they be and why?
Ooh. Now that you've said I can use the internet, that's different.
Yeah.
Because I already have my choices set made, but at this current point, I mean, I think this is always one of those things where it's like, what's your top favorite games? And they change all the time.
Always.
But like for me at the moment, Final Fantasy VII probably, because it's a game I've played over and over and over. And still to this day, there's things I can do on that game that I've never done, I'm sure. And even though I speedrun it, doesn't mean I've done everything in the game. So I think I would take that. I would probably take probably Metal Gear Solid 1, since that was like, it's probably up there as one of my, childhood memory, video games and favorites. I've played it over and over as well, but I would still play it. And to me, it's like the closest you'll get to a movie video games. To me, it's 2 in 1. It's entertainment and it's entertainment. It's 2 kinds of entertainment.
Yes.
And then the third option, I did think about this earlier, and again, this is one that I think will change. My initial thought was, honestly, Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
Because I'm having genuinely having that much fun. But I think if I could use online, I would take Zelda if I couldn't use online. But if I could use online, internet basically, maybe Final Fantasy XIV, since it's constantly updating, and you can talk to people on there, and I think I would take that, to be fair. Yeah.
Perfect. What a set of games, that's for sure. Oh, Neon, what a chat! I absolutely loved that chat. That was so good. Thanks so much for appearing on the podcast, mate. Can you one more time? One more time, tell us where we can find you on your socials.
So I am on obviously Twitch under neon_genesis_. Apparently I couldn't have enough underscore, so anyway. And my Twitter is slightly different. It's neongenesis87 with no underscores. And my Instagram is the Neon Genesis, because again, Instagram. And my YouTube channel is just Neon Genesis with my profile pictures. I think my profile pictures are all the same for all those, social medias, I think. But I have got a TikTok. I don't really use it, but the ones I primarily use are Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram, I think. So
Brilliant. Everyone, if you haven't, I'm sure a lot of you are already, but if you're not following Neon, please do. Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was such a great chat, mate. I absolutely love that. And yeah,
welcome.
I love your streams. You know, I said it to you before. I used to lurk on your streams a lot, and I still do. You know, I love this chat because again, you explaining, like you were saying, like I love to explain, you know, how I do my speed runs and stuff like that. I've always captured onto that, and that was one of the reasons why you're such a chill guy that explains things, you know, in a very easy way to understand. And honestly, it's an absolute privilege to get to chat with you today because, as I said, I love your streams, mate. So thank you. Thanks for everything.
I think it's really important, especially in speedrunning, that you that, because you know, again, I'm not dissing any speedrunners here, but some speedrunners just sort of stay quiet and run the game. But to me, I've always been quite big on community engagement and chatting and literally getting to know my community. So for me, it was always like I wanted to explain the run, because I thought my job is for you guys to, obviously my job is to run the game and beat my time, but also from an entertainment perspective, it's my job for you guys to understand the run. So if I can make you understand the run, you will understand the speed run, you'll enjoy the stream more. So whether I was good at the game or not, I think I got a lot of people just kind of really engrossed with the statistics I can give out on Final Fantasy VII, because I know like I can tell you like percentages of the chance of a certain move happening and all this other stuff. But yeah, absolutely. You know, I've got a lot to talk about, and I've got like a you know, been around a while, so hence the, you know, the long stories and, you know, lots of things I can go into. So, but yeah, thanks for listening to my story. Not
thanks.
to quote Tidus here, but you know, thank you for listening to my story and for having me on. And you know, it's been a brilliant to chat with you as well.
Oh, thanks so much, mate. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for watching / listening. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.